The crisp morning sun glinted off the glass doors of a prestigious bank in downtown Chicago. Inside the grand building, an air of quiet efficiency filled the space as employees in tailored suits bustled about and customers waited patiently in a well-organized queue. It was the kind of bank where professionalism was paramount and every interaction was measured, polished, and precise. But this particular morning was about to veer off script in a way no one could have foreseen. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. Standing in line was a middle-aged man with a weathered but confident demeanor. His outfit was unremarkable, a simple button-up shirt, jeans, and scuffed boots. However, perched atop his head was the unmistakable red baseball cap emblazoned with bold white letters, "Make America Great Again." The man, who introduced himself to those around him as Tom, had noticed the occasional sideways glance from other customers, but remained unbothered. He wasn't there to make friends or spark conversations. He simply needed to discuss an issue with his account. Tom moved forward as the line dwindled, his gaze sweeping the ornate architecture of the bank. Intricate moldings, marble floors, and large oil paintings spoke to its storied history and prestige. To him, it was just another day running errands. But to others in the bank, his hat seemed to be a lightning rod for unspoken tension. Behind the counter stood Amanda Carlisle, the branch manager. With her sharp navy suit, sleek bob haircut, and a no-nonsense attitude, Amanda had carved a reputation as a meticulous and efficient leader. Her approach to life was straightforward. Rules and decorum governed every aspect of her work. Amanda had noticed Tom's hat from the moment he walked in, and as he approached her counter, she braced herself. Over the years, Amanda had grown increasingly outspoken about her disdain for certain political symbols, and the MAGA hat to her symbolized everything she found abhorrent. Tom reached the counter and greeted her with a polite smile. "Good morning," he said in a deep, steady voice. "I'd like to discuss some discrepancies in my account. Could you help me with that?" Amanda's initial response was curt. "I'm not sure I'm the right person for this. Perhaps one of the tellers can assist you?" She gestured vaguely to another part of the bank. Tom tilted his head slightly, his calm expression unchanging. "You're the branch manager, right? I'd appreciate it if you could handle this personally." Amanda's irritation flickered to the surface. "Sir," she began, her voice clipped, "we reserve the right to refuse service. And frankly, I don't feel comfortable serving someone wearing that hat. It represents values that are in direct opposition to my personal beliefs and the inclusive environment we strive for here." A hush fell over the bank. Customers and employees alike turned their attention to the scene unfolding at the counter. Tom's calm demeanor remained intact, but there was a subtle shift in his posture. He clasped his hands together, leaning slightly on the counter. "I see," he said, his tone measured. "So, you're refusing to assist me because of my political views?" Amanda crossed her arms, her expression resolute. "I don't think it's appropriate to bring divisive symbols into a professional setting. This bank has standards." Tom nodded thoughtfully. "Standards," he repeated. "Interesting." A murmur rippled through the room as people exchanged glances. Some seemed uncomfortable, others intrigued. Tom adjusted his hat slightly, his piercing gaze meeting Amanda's unflinching one. "You know," he continued, "I've always believed in judging people by their actions and character, not their appearances or affiliations. But I guess not everyone sees it that way." Amanda raised her chin, her tone tinged with indignation. "We live in a time where symbols matter. They represent who we are and what we stand for." Tom exhaled slowly, his gaze never wavering. "You're right," he said. "Symbols do matter, and the one on your badge tells me you're supposed to serve every customer fairly." The tension in the room was palpable. Amanda hesitated for a moment, her composure faltering slightly, but her pride refused to let her back down. "I'm sorry, but my decision stands." Tom straightened up, his calm demeanor now accompanied by a faint smile that hinted at something more than amusement. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek leather wallet. From it, he retrieved a crisp business card and slid it across the counter to Amanda. "Since you've made your decision, I'll make mine," he said. "You might want to call this number." Amanda glanced at the card, her brow furrowing as she read the name printed on it. Thomas J. Preston, Chairman and Majority Owner, Preston National Bank. Her breath caught in her throat. The realization hit her like a freight train. The man she had just dismissed wasn't just a customer, he was the owner of the entire banking chain. The room seemed to freeze as Amanda's face turned pale. Her authoritative demeanor crumbled, replaced by a mixture of panic and disbelief. "Mr. Preston," she stammered, I didn't realize." Tom held up a hand, cutting her off gently but firmly. "No need to explain. Your actions speak louder than any words could. I believe in giving people opportunities to show who they really are, and today, you've shown me plenty." Amanda's colleagues looked on, their faces a mix of shock and unease. The other customers, who had been mere bystanders moments ago, now watched with rapt attention, the drama unfolding before them like a courtroom drama. Tom leaned in slightly, his voice low but firm. "As the owner of this bank, I've always emphasized the importance of treating every customer with respect, regardless of their background, beliefs, or attire. Apparently, that message hasn't reached everyone." Amanda opened her mouth to respond, but words failed her. She felt the weight of her mistake pressing down on her like an unbearable burden. Tom straightened up and addressed the room at large. "I want to thank everyone here for your patience. As for this particular branch, I'll be conducting a thorough review to ensure it aligns with the values we stand for. No one should ever feel unwelcome in a place meant to serve the public." With that, he adjusted his hat and turned to leave. The crowd parted for him, a mixture of awe and respect in their expressions. Amanda stood frozen behind the counter, her mind racing with the consequences of her actions. In the days that followed, the incident became a viral sensation. News outlets picked up the story, framing it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of making snap judgments. Amanda's career at the bank came to an abrupt end, and Tom used the opportunity to reinforce his commitment to inclusivity and professionalism across all branches of the bank. For Tom, the experience was a reminder of the importance of humility and fairness, values he had upheld throughout his career. He continued to wear his hat unapologetically, not as a political statement, but as a symbol of individuality and resilience. And while the bank continued to thrive under his leadership, the lesson learned that fateful day remained etched in its history, a testament to the power of actions over appearances. The story of Tom Preston and his unassuming visit to the downtown Chicago branch of his own bank quickly spiraled beyond the walls of the marble-floored institution. What had started as an everyday interaction between a bank manager and a customer became a headline-grabbing phenomenon. News stations, blogs, and social media users dissected every detail of the confrontation, and debates flared across dinner tables and office break rooms. Yet, amidst the whirlwind of public attention, Tom remained remarkably grounded. For him, the incident was not about sensationalism, but about reinforcing the importance of respect, professionalism, and integrity in every interaction. The days following the encounter were a mix of chaos and revelation for Amanda Carlisle. As she sat in the echoing quiet of her apartment, staring at the news coverage, replaying the scene that had defined her fall from grace, she couldn't stop the gnawing regret in her chest. Her hasty judgment, driven by a personal disdain she hadn't bothered to check at the door, had cost her not just a position but her reputation. To Amanda's credit, she didn't immediately retreat into bitterness or denial. Instead, she began to reflect deeply on what had led her to that moment. As someone who had prided herself on her professionalism, how had she let herself be swept up in a wave of assumptions and snap decisions? Her friends and family offered both support and criticism in equal measure. While some urged her to stand by her principles, others gently reminded her that principles, when improperly wielded, can alienate the very people they're meant to protect. Seeking clarity, Amanda reached out to mentors she had respected in the financial industry. One of them, a retired banker named Margaret Donovan, met her for coffee in a quiet corner of the city. Margaret's wisdom, earned over decades of navigating the intricacies of leadership, offered Amanda a perspective she hadn't considered. "You made a mistake," Margaret said bluntly, stirring her coffee with a measured hand. "We all do. The difference between a leader and a cautionary tale is what you choose to do next." Amanda nodded, fiddling nervously with her spoon. "I want to make it right," she said softly, "but I'm not sure how." "Start with humility," Margaret replied, "and don't just apologize for appearance's sake. Reflect on why this happened and how you can ensure it doesn't happen again." Amanda took those words to heart. She spent the following weeks immersing herself in books and articles about unconscious bias, communication, and the importance of fostering genuinely inclusive environments. She reached out to colleagues, both former and current, asking for feedback on her leadership style. The responses were candid, and some stung, but they illuminated blind spots Amanda hadn't even realized she had. For the first time in years, she was learning to listen without defensiveness. Meanwhile, Tom Preston's life didn't slow down. As the owner of Preston National Bank, his time was split between high-stakes meetings, reviewing performance reports, and spearheading charitable initiatives. Yet, the incident with Amanda continued to linger in his thoughts. It wasn't just about the personal slight. He had faced worse in his life and weathered them with grace. What truly unsettled him was the possibility that the very culture he had worked so hard to build within his company might be eroding without his notice. Determined to prevent such incidents in the future, Tom initiated a top-to-bottom audit of the bank's training programs, workplace policies, and leadership structures. He personally attended town hall meetings at several branches, inviting employees at all levels to speak openly about their experiences and concerns. At one such meeting, held in a modest conference room in a branch located in Milwaukee, a young teller named Sarah raised her hand hesitantly. Encouraged by Tom's approachable demeanor, she found the courage to speak her mind. "Mr. Preston," she began, "I think a lot of us want to do the right thing, but sometimes the training we get feels like it's just checking a box. You know, like we're memorizing rules without really understanding why they matter." Tom nodded thoughtfully. "That's an excellent point, Sarah," he said. "True understanding goes beyond policies. It's about fostering a mindset of empathy and fairness, not just compliance." Inspired by such feedback, Tom collaborated with experts in organizational psychology and diversity training to revamp the bank's educational programs. The new curriculum focused not only on procedural knowledge, but also on cultivating emotional intelligence, critical thinking, and genuine respect for diverse perspectives. Role-playing scenarios and workshops encouraged employees to confront their biases and practice handling difficult situations with grace and professionalism. To lead by example, Tom shared personal anecdotes from his own life during these sessions. He spoke about the challenges he faced as a young entrepreneur, the biases he had overcome, and even the lessons he learned from being underestimated because of his unassuming appearance. His vulnerability resonated with employees, reinforcing the idea that everyone, no matter their position or stature, had room to grow. As months passed, the changes Tom implemented began to ripple outward, touching not only employees, but also customers and the broader community. Branches that had once been purely transactional in their interactions with customers began fostering a sense of connection and trust. The effects were tangible: higher customer satisfaction scores, improved employee morale, and even an uptick in new accounts as word spread about the bank's renewed commitment to integrity. One afternoon, Tom received an unexpected letter at his corporate office. The sender? Amanda Carlisle. The envelope, neatly addressed in precise handwriting, contained a handwritten letter spanning 3 pages. In it, Amanda detailed her journey of introspection and growth since their fateful encounter. She apologized sincerely for her actions and acknowledged the harm she had caused not only to Tom, but to the reputation of the bank as a whole. "I won't ask for my job back," she wrote in closing. "I know trust has to be earned, not demanded, but I hope you'll accept my apology and know that I am committed to doing better, whether it's at your bank or elsewhere." Tom read the letter twice, his brow furrowing as he considered its implications. Amanda's words seemed genuine, and they reminded him of his own philosophy, that people should be judged by their actions and their character, not just their mistakes. After some deliberation, Tom reached for his phone and dialed Amanda's number. The conversation that followed was honest and productive. Tom acknowledged her courage in reaching out and offered her an opportunity, a chance to return to the bank, not as a branch manager, but in a role focused on training and development, a department where she could apply the lessons she had learned to help others avoid similar missteps. To his surprise, Amanda accepted the offer with humility and gratitude. "Thank you for believing in second chances," she said softly. "I promise I won't waste it." Amanda's return to the bank marked the beginning of a new chapter, both for her and for the organization. As part of the training and development team, she threw herself into her work with renewed passion. Drawing on her own experiences, she helped design workshops that encouraged employees to examine their biases and approach each customer interaction with empathy and an open mind. One of Amanda's most impactful initiatives was a storytelling series where employees and customers were invited to share their personal journeys. These stories, often poignant and eye-opening, reminded everyone that behind every account number and transaction was a human being with dreams, struggles, and unique perspectives. Tom made a point of attending many of these sessions. He was often moved by the raw honesty and vulnerability on display, and he found himself more inspired than ever to lead with compassion and purpose. Amanda, too, found the sessions transformative. Each story reinforced the importance of seeing beyond appearances and assumptions, a lesson she carried with her every day. The years that followed saw Preston National Bank rise to new heights. Under Tom's leadership, the bank not only expanded its footprint, but also became a model for corporate responsibility and ethical business practices. Its reputation as a customer-focused institution attracted clients from all walks of life, and its commitment to fostering a supportive work environment made it one of the most sought-after employers in the industry. For Tom, the incident with Amanda was not just a turning point. It was a reminder of the values he held dear and the responsibility he bore as a leader. He continued to visit branches unannounced, not to catch employees off guard, but to connect with them on a personal level and ensure that the culture he had envisioned remained strong. And for Amanda, the experience was a humbling but ultimately empowering one. Though she had stumbled in a moment of weakness, she had found the strength to face her mistakes head-on and use them as a springboard for growth. Her work in training and development left a lasting legacy, shaping the next generation of employees and instilling in them the lessons she had learned the hard way. And for Tom, as he donned his signature red hat each morning, it was a symbol not just of individuality, but of the enduring spirit of fairness and resilience that had guided him throughout his life. Wherever he went, he carried with him the simple yet profound truth that actions, not appearances, were what truly defined a person. Tom Preston's rise to prominence had been marked by resilience, adaptability, and an unshakable belief in the value of hard work. His unassuming demeanor often masked the complexity of his character, a man deeply committed to fairness and equity, who had never allowed power to cloud his principles. In the aftermath of the incident with Amanda Carlisle, his focus shifted to what truly mattered, ensuring the values he held dear were not just words on a mission statement, but a living, breathing part of the organization he had built. While the media continued to churn out stories about the confrontation, Tom largely ignored the clamor. He knew how fleeting public attention could be and how often the truth was buried beneath layers of speculation and sensationalism. Instead, he concentrated on what the incident revealed: a gap in how people perceived the culture of Preston National Bank and the need to close it decisively. Months after Amanda Carlisle's return to the organization, Tom initiated a groundbreaking project he called the Bridge Program. The idea was born from a simple yet profound observation: division often thrived in the absence of understanding. If people could connect on a human level, many barriers, whether ideological, cultural, or social, might dissolve. The Bridge Program was designed to foster connections between employees, customers, and the communities the bank served. It started with small pilot initiatives such as mentorship programs where seasoned employees were paired with new hires, not just to teach them the ropes of the job, but to share their personal stories and life lessons. These mentorships often uncovered unexpected commonalities, breaking down stereotypes and encouraging genuine relationships. One particularly memorable mentorship pairing involved an older teller, Rosa, who had worked at the bank for over 30 years, and a young man named Jacob, fresh out of college. On paper, they couldn't have been more different. Rosa was a first-generation immigrant who had worked her way up from cleaning offices at night, while Jacob was the son of wealthy parents who had assumed he'd one day take over the family's business. At first, their conversations were stilted, with Jacob hesitant to open up and Rosa unsure of how to connect with someone so unlike herself. But over time, through weekly meetings and shared responsibilities, they discovered a shared passion for gardening. Rosa spoke of her tiny backyard filled with bright marigolds and tomatoes, while Jacob sheepishly admitted he'd recently started an herb garden on his apartment balcony. Their bond grew from there, And by the end of the program, Jacob credited Rosa not only with teaching him the practical aspects of banking, but also with helping him see beyond his narrow worldview. Another initiative under the Bridge program involved inviting customers to participate in community listening circles. These were informal gatherings held in bank branches or local community centers where people could discuss their experiences, hopes, and frustrations. The goal was simple: to remind the bank's employees that they weren't just handling accounts and transactions, but impacting lives. One evening at a branch in Minneapolis, a customer named Linda shared her story. A single mother of 3, she explained how a small personal loan from Preston National Bank had allowed her to start a side business making handcrafted jewelry. That side business had since grown into a full-time career, enabling her to provide for her family and even save for her children's college education. As Linda spoke, the room grew silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Employees who had processed thousands of similar loans suddenly saw them in a new light. They weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, they were lifelines, opportunities, and in many cases, the seeds of transformation. Meanwhile, Amanda Carlisle's new role within the training and development team continued to evolve. Her initial return to the organization had been met with skepticism from some colleagues who questioned whether she deserved another chance. But Amanda was undeterred. She approached every task with humility and determination, proving through her actions that she was committed to growth and change. One of Amanda's most ambitious projects was a comprehensive review of the bank's hiring practices. Drawing on her own experience, she identified areas where bias, both conscious and unconscious, might creep into decision-making. She proposed a series of changes, including anonymous resume reviews, structured interviews focused on objective criteria, and the inclusion of diverse panels in the hiring process. These reforms had an immediate impact, bringing in a wider range of talent and perspectives. Employees from underrepresented backgrounds began to feel more empowered to share their ideas, and the bank's culture became richer and more dynamic as a result. While these internal changes were taking shape, Tom took a more public-facing approach to addressing the broader implications of the Amanda incident. He was invited to speak at conferences and events about leadership, humility, and the importance of creating inclusive environments. While Tom was not one to seek the spotlight, he recognized the opportunity to use his platform for good. At one such conference, hosted by the National Business Leadership Forum, Tom delivered a keynote address titled "The Courage to Lead with Empathy." Standing before an audience of executives, he recounted the moment Amanda had refused to serve him and the choices he had made in its aftermath. "I could have reacted with anger or used my position to punish her," Tom said. "But what would that have accomplished? Would it have changed her perspective? Would it have made her a better leader? Instead, I chose to give her a chance to learn, and in doing so, I learned something too. Leadership isn't about wielding power. It's about using it to uplift others, even when it's difficult." The audience responded with a standing ovation, and in the days that followed, Tom received messages from business leaders across the country, many of whom shared their own stories of navigating challenging moments in leadership. Some even sought his advice on implementing similar changes within their organizations. As time passed, the impact of Tom's approach became increasingly evident. Preston National Bank's reputation as a bastion of integrity and fairness attracted not only customers, but also partnerships with other organizations. Nonprofits, small businesses, and even government agencies sought out the bank for collaborative initiatives aimed at uplifting communities. One such partnership was with a nonprofit focused on financial literacy for underserved populations. Together, they launched a series of free workshops covering topics such as budgeting, saving, and building credit. These workshops were held in local libraries, schools, and community centers, often led by bank employees who volunteered their time. One participant, a young woman named Maria, attended a workshop at her neighborhood library. She had always been intimidated by the idea of managing her finances, but the approachable and practical advice she received changed her outlook. With the bank's guidance, Maria opened her first savings account and set a goal of buying her own home within 5 years. When she achieved that goal 3 years later, she sent a heartfelt letter to the bank, thanking them for empowering her to take control of her financial future. For Tom, Stories like Maria's were the true measure of success. They reminded him why he had entered the world of banking in the first place, to create opportunities and make a tangible difference in people's lives. Yet even as he celebrated these victories, Tom never lost sight of the work that remained. He continued to push for innovation, exploring ways to make banking more accessible and inclusive. Under his leadership, Preston National Bank invested heavily in technology, developing user-friendly apps and digital tools designed to serve customers who might otherwise face barriers to accessing financial services. From rural communities with limited brick-and-mortar branches to individuals with disabilities who needed tailored solutions, the bank's commitment to meeting people where they were became a cornerstone of its identity. Amanda, too, found her stride in her new role. She became a sought-after speaker on the topic of professional redemption, often reflecting on the lessons she had learned through her experiences. At a leadership summit in New York, she delivered a speech titled, "From Mistake to Momentum, The Power of Owning Your Growth." "Making a mistake doesn't define you," Amanda said to a room filled with aspiring leaders. "What defines you is how you respond to it. Are you willing to face the discomfort of introspection? Are you brave enough to ask for feedback and truly listen? Growth isn't easy, but it's always worth it." Her words resonated deeply, earning her accolades and sparking conversations about the importance of second chances in both personal and professional contexts. For Tom Preston, the red hat he continued to wear was no longer just a symbol of his individuality. It had become a reminder of the responsibility he bore as a leader, to create spaces where people were valued for who they were, not judged for what they seemed to represent. And as he walked through the doors of his bank each day, greeting employees and customers alike with his trademark warmth, he knew he was living that responsibility to the fullest. As Tom Preston's journey continued, his commitment to transforming the culture of his bank expanded in ways that resonated far beyond the financial industry. Inspired by the ripple effect of his earlier actions, Tom began collaborating with other leaders across various sectors, exchanging ideas on how to build workplaces grounded in respect and mutual understanding. These cross-industry conversations often revealed a shared hunger for actionable strategies to navigate an increasingly polarized world, and Tom's philosophy of leading with empathy emerged as a guiding principle. One such collaboration took shape in an unexpected arena: education. Tom partnered with a prominent university to create a leadership training program for students pursuing careers in business, finance, and public administration. Titled Principles in Practice: Leadership Through Understanding, the program integrated case studies from Tom's own experiences, including the now famous incident with Amanda Carlisle. The curriculum emphasized the importance of integrity, emotional intelligence, and the willingness to learn from mistakes. As part of the program, Tom often visited classrooms to engage with students directly. His candid discussions about humility and the complexities of decision-making captivated young minds eager to leave their mark on the world. One student, Maya, asked during a Quanda session, "Mr. Preston, what's the most valuable lesson you've learned as a leader?" Tom paused, his thoughtful demeanor filling the room. "It's this," he said. "Every interaction is an opportunity to either build a bridge or burn one. Choose wisely. You never know when the person standing in front of you might teach you something that changes your perspective, or when you might do the same for them." Maya carried those words with her, eventually applying them to her own career as a policy advisor, where she often drew on Tom's insights to navigate contentious discussions with compassion and clarity. The ripple effects of Tom's influence weren't confined to the professional world. Community members who interacted with Preston National Bank often commented on the noticeable difference in how they were treated. Whether it was a first-time customer opening a small savings account or a struggling entrepreneur seeking financial advice, the bank's employees now approached every situation with a mindset of service and understanding. One particularly touching example involved an elderly man named Walter, who had been hesitant to visit the bank due to a lifetime of financial struggles. When he finally worked up the courage to walk through the doors, a young banker named Elena greeted him with a kind smile and took the time to explain his options in simple, accessible terms. Walter left the bank that day, not only with a manageable savings plan, but also with a sense of dignity he hadn't felt in years. Stories like Walter's became commonplace, reinforcing the idea that even the smallest gestures could have profound impacts. If you like this video, Please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on the bank manager's reaction to the MAGA hat? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.